This week in the business of tech earnings reports face a slowdown while job openings are soaring and unemployment hits an ultra low. Google and Microsoft unveil new AI chat services, while new tech legislation imposes strict requirements on connected medical devices. And businesses are facing the challenge of integrating siloed apps and data in their digital transformation journey. In the vendor space, ScalePad has acquired Cognition360 and Acronis has updated its partner program. And Gartner has offered 7 fundamental rules to articulate the business value of IT. All these stories and more. Hit those like, subscribe, and the notification buttons and help us pay the bills. And here are this week's stories. Last week was tech earnings report. I was looking for cloud data here. AWS reported lower than expected revenue and warned that cloud growth would slow and company-wide operating profits in the current quarter could be anywhere from $0 to $4 billion. Analysts had expected operating profits near the high end of that range. Google's cloud numbers were slightly lower than expected, but continuing to grow, although analysts are waiting to see their AI moves. Job openings soared by 572,000 to 11 million in December, according to the latest job openings and labor turnover survey. Despite a steady stream of layoff announcements in the technology sector, there are still more job postings than workers available to fill them. Overall, the unemployment rate hit an ultra-low 3.4%, better than expected, and the best since 1953. Average hourly earnings rose 0.3% in January, slowing slightly from December's upwardly revised 0.4% pace. Over the year through January, hourly earnings are up 4.4%. Tech unemployment is only 1.8% versus 3.4% in the broader economy. So where are the booms? Leisure and hospitality and professional and business services lead the pack. In the January growth of jobs, these were the top 2 segments. The Washington Post dug into the move from hospitality to professional services. Those restaurant employees didn't disappear, they became office workers. And one other item of note, the Federal Reserve no longer sees the pandemic as a risk to the economy anymore. Why do we care? So this is the counter story to the tech layoffs one. Big tech companies believed the economy would move faster than it did and the pandemic conditions would remain indefinitely. They're trimming up their businesses. And in a world without enough workers, tech remains explicitly tight. For those in services, remember that your customers are distinctly not tech, so those data points matter significantly more. There's continuing good news in the larger economy. So in the last story, I mentioned that the Fed isn't factoring in COVID anymore. I wanted to go deeper on that point, so let's quote from Axios. In the US, we've gone from a labor market of plenty to one of scarcity. 500,000 workers died, many retired earlier than expected, and immigration fell. The workforce itself is still short on workers. The labor force grew by an average of 1% a year in the post-war period, up till COVID. Now, growth has settled below 0.5%. That means higher wages and a landscape where workers have at least a smidge more power than before. It also means a stronger push toward automation wherever employers can do it. More fast food ordering kiosks and drugstore self-checkouts. Often workers don't always work in offices anymore. It's leading to huge changes in cities, all those half-empty offices, and the restaurants that no longer feed hordes of desk jockeys. People working remotely want bigger homes and more amenities in regions that didn't need them before. And that has meant big changes in the real estate market. And another data point, according to swipe data from Castle Systems, office occupancy hit a new post-pandemic record this week at 50.4%. Half full or half empty? The figure has largely plateaued since September, hinting at a new reality where people work from home much more. Why do we care? Felt like this is the second portion of the day's story. The market has changed and is becoming more consistent. Half-full offices have been the norm since September, and an offer that worker power has also been increasingly strong. It's the secondary effects to look for with your customers. Where are their businesses growing or shrinking? And where can you find a space to be the expert? Let's talk more about AI. I'm never going to be able to cover everything, nor keep up with the speed of releases, and instead I'm going to batch these up and review them. I'm not convinced speed is the solution to good coverage with these. Google announced their upcoming ChatGPT competitor. It's called Bard. The tool is an experimental conversational AI service that will answer users' queries and participate in conversations. The software is available to a group of trusted testers on Monday before becoming more widely available to the public in the coming weeks. It's based on the company's Lambda technology. Microsoft announced a new Bing experience would be in limited preview starting today, which brings a ChatGPT-like experience to the search engine. The company also announced a new version of Edge, which brings AI enhancements to the browser as well. That includes two new features, Chat and Compose. These will be embedded within Edge's sidebar. Chat will allow users to summarize the web page or document they're looking at and ask questions about its contents, while Compose acts as a writing assistant, helping to generate text from emails to social media posts based on a few starting prompts. Axios did a roundup of the players too. Besides Google and Microsoft, Meta uses AI on newsfeed items, content moderation, text translation, and others. Amazon uses AI in voice recognition and warehouse operations, and Apple, well, they're quiet so far. A judge in Colombia used ChatGPT to make a court ruling. It's the first time we know about the use of an AI in a legal decision. The judge used the AI tool to pose legal questions about the case and included its responses in his decision, according to a court document dated January 30th, 2023. Researchers have found that image generation AI tools, such as Stable Diffusion, memorize training images, typically being made by real artists and scraped for free from the web, and can spit them out as nearly identical copies. This from a paper released last week. And ZDNet has an interview focused on using generative AI to improve customer experience. The critical insight to come, integrations with CRM systems to provide even better insights. Now, why do we care? Well, tactically, it's going to be essential to track the players here, and I expect them to be the big tech companies like Microsoft and Google. I'm convinced it's the thorny questions brought up by the researchers or the judge that are where the value is to be mined. Should that judge be required to disclose the use of AI? Does that extend to workers in general? Where will copyright fit in when considering derivative works based on AI? We like hard questions, as they're the very definition of consulting, bringing expertise to bear on addressing these within the context of your customers. Are your go-to-cloud providers AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud? Do you ever question whether some clients really need the complexity and expense of the big players? Recommend a better fit with Linode and Akamai, Linux cloud hosting at a fraction of the cost of the big players. Save up to 70% on cloud bills, enjoy flat, transparent pricing, and zero-tier technical support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, regardless of your monthly spend. Test Linode for yourself with $250 free cloud credit by visiting linode.com/MSP Radio. Black small business owners feel more optimistic about this year than their peers, according to Goldman Sachs' latest 10,000 Small Business Voices survey. Here are some highlights, quoting from Axios. 81% of Black small business owners are optimistic about the financial trajectory of their business in 2023, compared to 68% of the overall surveyed population, according to the results shared first with Axios. 78% of Black business owners expect their business to increase profits compared to 60% overall. 67% expect their businesses to create new jobs compared to 51% overall. and 67% are currently hiring full-time or part-time employees compared to 59% overall. And there's a yes, but 45% of black small business owners say they've dipped into their personal savings over the past 3 months to keep their business afloat, compared to 33% of the overall small business population surveyed. Those numbers are up from January 2022 to 38% and 23%, respectively. 37% of black small business owners say they found it difficult to access new capital and financing versus 23% overall. In January of 2022, 32% of black business owners were not confident in their ability to access capital, compared with 19% not confident overall. Now, why do we care? Well, first off, there's the overall SMB optimism to report on. Now, the challenges of SMB owners are all different. There are many factors to consider, and the owner's background matters. Not all are equal. This is why I spend time on diversity, to understand and better serve. That's why I recommend doing so to listeners. So, a bit of tech legislation seems to have been missed, and thanks to Stacy on IoT for this one. In the end-of-the-year spending bill, some new rules exist around connected medical devices. Quoting from the blog, the law requires that any medical device that is connected to the internet get pre-market approval before being released to the public. It also requires several other security practices, such as a software bill of materials. But the most notable part of the law is that a company can't sell a connected medical device without first showing it to the Food and Drug Administration and proving that, should any security vulnerabilities arise, it has plans to monitor, update, and fix the device. Why do we care? That's a big deal. The FDA can enforce security standards, and devices have to be shown to be able to monitor, update, and fix those devices ongoing. That's a significantly higher bar than before, and moves from self-enforcement to government enforcement. Expect to see more of this. So let's look at how digital tools are used in business. I'll quote from Tech Republic. A survey by Salesforce's MuleSoft division shows that trying to achieve transformation by scooping up applications might not get you there if the strategy doesn't include application programming interfaces, automation, and other methods to integrate them. Based on responses to a survey conducted in October and November of 2022, businesses increased the number of applications they use by 10% in the 12 months prior to over 1,060 on average. However, fewer than 1/3 of those applications were integrated, creating data silos, rising costs, duplicated work, productivity bottlenecks, and disconnected experiences, according to MuleSoft. 36% of those surveyed, all of whom work at an organization with at least 1,000 employees and hold at least a managerial position in an IT department, said integrating siloed apps and data was the biggest challenge to digital transformation. Putting that in context, Forrester released a new report on IT spending. Enterprise IT spending in the U.S. will increase in 2023, but the growth rate will slow to 5.4%, down from 7.4% in 2022. Software is the primary driver of tech spending growth, increasing by 8.3% this year, the report said, to 42% of total tech spend, up from 34% last year. Why do we care? Don't be thrown off by the size of the customers surveyed here. Instead, focus on the problem. Too many applications which aren't pulled together to create a coherent whole. This is a common problem, and probably will worsen with increased software spend. I'm always amused by how much time providers spend worrying about hardware programs when the money is clearly in software. Beyond that, the real money is in those integration services, and the biggest challenge is code for highest value services. Let's do some channel vendor stuff. ScalePad has purchased managed services business intelligence vendor Cognition360. No terms of the deal were disclosed. Cognition360's solution helps MSPs compare themselves to best practice benchmarks in areas ranging from the agreement and customer profitability to technician efficiency and service delivery by using machine learning, predictive AI, and anonymous data from some 100 million ConnectWise PSA tickets. PAAI Desk, which I mentioned when they launched, has been added by ThreatLocker to its list of trusted applications. Acronis has updated its partner program with new advanced PACS promotion to pilot services such as advanced security, management, email security, disaster recovery, and data loss protection, and reimburse the costs for the initial 6 months of offering. Acronis has also introduced the Competitive Displacement Program. It helps MSPs to migrate their clients to Acronis CyberProtect Cloud with a 100% rebate on Acronis usage until the end of the remaining contract with their current vendor. I spotted a new player in the SaaS management space, HYCU, H-Y-C-U, a product designed to help SaaS vendors integrate backup into their products. It's a low-code offering that allows quick integration into a SaaS product. And finally, in vendor moves, Microsoft had provided more information on a Windows update designed to help identify how many PCs are running old versions of Office 2013, 2010, and 2007. The update comes ahead of the end of support for Office 2013, which arrives on April 11th. Microsoft is also retiring Microsoft Teams Free Classic and encouraging moves to Microsoft Teams Essentials for $4 per user a month. There will, confusingly, be a Microsoft Teams Free. Why do we care? If I squint a lot, ScalePad is building a data analytics operation. Their products are observation ones, from warranty data to backups to ticket flow. So that's why we care. P has shown up a lot in my feed lately, and it's an AI play too. We'll see how much. Acronis is the dark horse fourth platform for MSPs, and they're leaning into taking market share. That's why we care. I will also add a bit of snark. When deal terms aren't disclosed, you should assume it's just a 6-pack of beer. Why? Because often withholding the deal terms is a sign they're not what you think they are or what the vendor wants you to think. One's natural inclination is to assume it's a large number. Actually, assume it's very little. It changes your perspective on the acquisition. So, time for a security roundup. Enables analysis of its 2022 Mail Assure data compared to 2021 showed an increase in phishing attempts over the prior year. That's based on over 28 billion emails blocked by the cloud-based email security solution. Specifically, phishing attempts against businesses increased from 776 million to 913 million, an 18% increase year over year. Moreover, there were 5 million more attempts by hackers to install viruses on MSP customer servers. And according to a study by website security company Sansec, roughly 12% of online stores forget their backups in public folders due to human error or negligence. The study examined 2,037 stores of various sizes and found that 250, or 12.3%, exposed zip, SQL, and tar archives on public web folders that can be freely accessed without requiring authentication. CISA and the FBI issued a joint advisory about the ESXi ARGS ransomware campaign, which targets unpatched and out-of-service or out-of-date versions of VMware ESXi. According to CISA, 3,800 VMware ESXi servers have been compromised globally, potentially leaving VMs running from the ESXi server unusable. They've also released a script to help with recovery. And while I'm thinking about federal responses, I wanted to cite a Washington Post analysis of this week's State of the Union address, which notes the omission of cybersecurity in the speech. However, related issues of privacy, health and safety, and social media did make the speech. I've included a link to the analysis. Now, why do we care? It's easy to focus on what was left out of the State of the Union. I'm not sure this is a big messaging problem to worry about, and instead I'll look more at the actions. There have been plenty, and I'm much more interested in CISA and FBI moves than if it makes it into the president's speech. Let's focus on what moves the needle. A Gartner piece that is worthy of some attention. Gartner recommends 7 fundamental rules to articulate the business value of IT. Let's take a look. Rule 1. Value is determined by the stakeholder or consumer, not the provider and producer. Rule 2, not all outcomes are equally valued. Rule 3, build 2 value narratives, run and change. Rule 4, measure IT's impact on stakeholders' objectives, not IT effort expended. Rule 5, align IT costs to the business services they enable. Rule 6, communicate IT value in the language of the stakeholder. And Rule 7, those funding IT must understand the value and impact of IT on stakeholder objectives. I'll highlight this from the article in CIO Dive as it relates to Rule 1. It's stakeholders, not IT, that determine what is valuable. Without insight into business priorities, IT is likely to remain focused on the delivery of technologies and platforms rather than business objectives, benefits, or outcomes. Why do we care? It's as if focusing on what the customer wants from a business perspective is the optimal way to approach it. Funny about that. Snark aside, these are solid recommendations, and I wanted to reinforce this one for listeners. I'm going to send you into the weekend with a Vice article about a used chair sales company. You heard that right, used chairs. Swivel Office Solutions, based in a nondescript warehouse an hour east of Manhattan, pivoted from sales of used office furniture for use in new office installations to buying up office equipment from companies closing their offices and then selling those items to individuals who are building work-from-home setups. Want a multi-$1,000 standing desk? $600. $1,000 Aeron chairs? $500 or less. Here's the key quote. Traditionally, liquidating an office doesn't come cheap, sometimes costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. But many companies had valuable desks and chairs. Where there was nice furniture, Swivel Office Solutions was willing to swoop in and offer to handle it for a fraction of what a moving company would charge because they were willing to take on the risk involved in storing the nicest furniture and then finding buyers themselves. Why do we care? This is an excellent example of second-order effects being taken advantage of. I've talked about work from home and the impact on office space. The immediate effect is the changes to the companies themselves. But what about their vendors, the ecosystems around them of other companies that do business with them? I like this example because of its simplicity. That's why we care, anticipating the changes based on new market conditions. A lot less moaning, a lot more pivoting. It's the big thought for the weekend. Thanks for watching this week in the Business of Tech. If you like this video, you can let me know with a like of the video, and even more valuable, hitting the subscription button. My content is all free, and I use metrics like subscriptions to pay the bills, so it has real value. The content here is produced under ethics guidelines posted at businessof.tech. If you're interested in more content like this, you can get access to content early via our Patreon at patreon.com/MSPradio. It's our give what you want model where you set the value of what you think the content is worth. If you like this show, you can catch it daily as the 5-minute news and commentary podcast, The Business of Tech, available on all your favorite podcatchers with links at businessof.tech. Just hit that big blue subscribe button. Again, thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen, and I really value the interaction. If you want to say something in the comments, I do respond and watch all of them, and I look forward to talking to you next time.